While Zomato and Zerodha, two of India's biggest unicorns in recent times, took a full decade to attain unicorn status, and Mamaearth accomplished this in just 6 years. But then there is Mensa Brands. This e-commerce aggregated platform achieved unicorn status in just 6 months, making it the fastest ever Indian company to reach $1 billion valuation. And I wouldn't be surprised if you haven't heard of them at all. Founded in 2021, Mensa Brands revolutionized the direct-to-consumer landscape by scaling multiple brands simultaneously. Mensa Brands are growing at a rapid pace and are highly profitable, making a revenue of over 500 crores in the last year. While most startups focus primarily on growth and don't really care whether they're profitable or not, but Mensa Brands on the other hand achieved their unicorn status while being profitable from the start. You see, they have a very unique business model which involves acquiring and scaling high potential D2C brands. They basically buy other D2C brands in the market and provide these brands with operational and marketing support, enabling them to grow super fast. Now, Mensa Brands owns a lot of companies including MyFitness, Villain, Dennis Lingo, and some of these brands that you might have heard of. Each brand caters to a distinct consumer segment, offering a wide range of products from fitness supplements and athleisure wear to grooming essentials and pet care products. Now, you might be wondering, why do they need so many brands? Why can't they just create one brand like Reliance and just create multiple segments under it? Well, that's because of new consumer trend that has started in India. You see, consumers are willing to pay a premium for a specialized brand over a generalized brand, which is why we have been seeing a lot of new age brands like Mokobara who just focus on selling backpacks, or Salt who just focus on selling toothbrush and toothpaste, or even Blue Orange who just focus on one fashion segment, that is streetwear. Consumers no longer prefer to buy from brands that sell everything under one roof, and this is true especially in the e-commerce segment. Now, Mensa is India's first e-commerce roll-up company and have cracked up something super unique in India's e-commerce market. So, what is the secret sauce here and what has Mensa Brands cracked? The first insight: Mensa is based on Thrasio model, which is widely successful in the US. Mensa is the brainchild of Mr. Anant Narayan, who has literally witnessed the e-commerce wave firsthand in India. He's an ex-director at McKinsey, ex-co-founder and CEO of MedLife, and ex-CEO of Myntra. But let's come back to the real question here. What does Mensa Brands do? You see, every company in the market basically has two stages in its life cycle. The 0 to 1 stage, which primarily involves the creation of a new product or even a new brand. And then there's 1 to end stage of the company, which involves expansion, becoming profitable, scaling, efficiency, and so on. Now, Mensa is a company which is a house of brands, but they don't build each brand from 0 to 1. Instead, they acquire promising brands and take them from 1 to n. Now, Mensa has followed the Thrasio business model. But what is this Thrasio business model? Thrasio is a US company started by these two guys in 2018 when they noticed a shocking trend on Amazon, and that is the rise of third-party sellers. Amazon has primarily two types of sellers: first-party sellers or vendors and third-party sellers. When it comes to the first-party sellers, Amazon only invites few of the biggest brands on their platform, as they are sure of the frequency and reputation of these sellers. For the third-party sellers, who are mostly small businesses, Amazon becomes only the marketplace for them. In this case, the business sells their product directly to consumers on Amazon, while Amazon being the marketplace. Recently, Amazon has also made the logistic part easier through their service of fulfillment by Amazon, which takes care of the deliveries as well. Thrasio, this US company we were talking about, noticed something really interesting. They realized that the number of third-party sellers on Amazon was skyrocketing, going from 26% in 2007 to a whopping 67% in 2024. That's a huge jump. The competition among these third-party sellers was getting intense. Many of these brands would hit a revenue of $3 to $5 million, but then they would get stuck. They couldn't seem to grow beyond that point. To expand their businesses, these two brands had two options. First, take on debt, or second, raise funds. But these two options weren't always feasible and desirable. So Thrasio would step in and buy these brands, and they would take care of fixing everything for the brand. They would look at the product portfolio, packaging, packaging, online strategy, performance marketing, and even the supply chain. Using these strategies, they managed to increase sales by 30% within 2 months for many of these brands, and now have over 200 brands under them at this point. This whole idea of buying a bunch of brands or companies and putting them all under one roof is called the roll-up model. Thrasio was the one who made it popular in the world of e-commerce, and that's where Mensa brand got its inspiration. This roll-up model has proved successful to so many companies before this. In fact, Aditya Birla's Madura Fashion uses a similar model, but in the offline world of shopping. Check out this video where we did a deep dive on Aditya Birla's roll-up model. Now, Mensa is still very different from Thrasio, but we'll talk more about that later. One thing they have in common is that Mensa also buys a controlling stake of at least 50% in fast-growing e-commerce brands, but in different categories like clothes, home, personal care, beauty, and even content. Yes, you heard that right, content. In fact, they leverage the distribution they have built using content to sell and advertise products from their brands. If you go to Men's XP, which is their content brand, you can see how they showcase and add tags to a lot of their own products that are under different brand names. Ideally, these companies should have a revenue of 25 to 35 crores. Also, the founders should be willing to work with Mensa for at least 5 years. By the way, this model isn't unique to Mensa. It has obviously been replicated by other players in the country as well, like Global Bees, Upscaleo, Goat Brand Labs, and even Flow. But Mensa's goal is to acquire 40 to 50 brands over time and scale 20% of them to revenue of more than 1000 crores. And just see what Anand said about this himself.
We have 20 brands that we bought.
Yeah.
I would say 7 of those brands are now 80% of our revenue, and they are the breakout brands. Right? There is another 7 that I think have the potential to be a breakout, and then there are others that we will consolidate into these.
Now, coming to the second insight, the Indian brand insight. Now, coming back to the insight, see what made Anand super bullish was the possibility of creating Indian brands, and this one because of 2 reasons. First, the growing openness to Indian brands and consumers, and second, the increase in online shopping, and we'll discuss both. Indian consumers are increasingly shifting towards homegrown brands, moving away from foreign alternatives. This shift in consumer behavior is driven by a growing sense of national pride, a desire to support local businesses, and the improving quality and competitiveness of Indian products. We can clearly see this happening across all segments, from clothing companies like Rare Rabbit, Soul Store, Blue Orange, all the way to Minimalist and Sugar, who are dominating the beauty segment. By nurturing and expanding Indian brands across various categories, Mensa is tapping into the rising demand for domestic products, potentially capturing a significant market share as consumers continue to prioritize made in India offerings. Coming to the second point here. So, in terms of consumption, you know we are the 5th biggest market in the world. And guess what? We are expected to jump to 3rd spot by 2026. That's right. India's private consumption is huge, accounting for almost 60% of our entire GDP. That's almost double what is for a country like China. We are a country where private consumption is kind of the driving force behind our economy. But what exactly is private consumption? It's basically the money people spend on essentials like food, housing, clothes, healthcare, and even leisure activities, communication, and education. This data comes from the Bloom Ventures Indus Valley report. It's a great report, by the way, and if you want to access this, we have shared the link in the description. Or if you want to understand the entire report very quickly, you can just watch this video that we made on it. It's important to know that while growing consumption was a major tailwind for businesses, India's internet boom was the next big thing. Our internet penetration has skyrocketed from 41% to 55% in just 4 years, all thanks to Jio. In fact, we now have more internet users in rural India than in urban India. The shift took some time to happen, but it's been a game changer for the e-commerce market. In fact, this is what made it possible for online first brands like Mamaearth, Boat, Lenskart, and many others to even exist. What people don't realize is that this is just the beginning, because some of the biggest categories like clothes, personal care, and food are mostly unbranded. For instance, in the food sector, half of the market is unorganized, and in the clothing industry, a whopping 65% of the market is still unorganized. As businesses become more organized and consumers spend more, India will see a rise in brand-based purchases. Mensa aims to capitalize on this by creating several highly popular brands over the next decade, recognizing that the market allows multiple winners. Now, the third insight: offline and content playbook. Unlike Thrasio, they are also exploring the offline channel because they believe that each brand needs different strategies depending on its stage of growth. For example, a company with a revenue of 0 to 20 crores should focus on perfecting its product, getting good reviews, and ensuring repeat customers. From 20 to 100 crores, the focus should shift to effective performance marketing and expanding the product range. And from 100 to 500 crores, the company should consider opening offline stores, building impactful campaigns, and engaging in community building. Offline presence makes a lot of sense in India because we are value conscious market. We need to see the product in person to build trust. The more we see a product offline, the more likely we are to try it. This is especially important for categories like food and touch and feel categories like clothing. That's why they even got on board Niranjan Tandulwadikar, who had great experience of taking care of the offline operations at Aditya Birla Fashion. We have made an entire case study on Aditya Birla. Do check it. Another cool thing they have done is buying content companies like Mensa and IDEVA. At the time of acquisition, these companies had about 35 million monthly active users. That's a huge audience that they could instantly market and promote their products to. This move was smart because these platforms focus on lifestyle, making it easier for people to discover their products for the first time. Nowadays, products are often found online before people buy them offline. So, making it easier to find their products online means more sales in stores. Coming to the last insight, or their fourth unique strategy, which is going global. This is completely different from what Thrasio did. Mensa isn't just looking at India's 1.3 billion people. They are looking beyond that. Right now, 30% of their revenue comes from global markets like the USA, UAE, and Canada. They do this by listing their products on e-commerce platforms in the other countries too. For example, in the UAE, they have listed their products like Villain, Pebble, and Folk Culture on Amazon UAE and also on Noon, which is a pretty famous e-commerce platform there. Amazon makes things a lot easier for them because the ratings and reviews their products they get in India also get translated and reflected in other countries. This going global is a genius move because India is one of the biggest apparel manufacturers in the world. So making something here and selling it at a higher rates in foreign currencies is a great idea. This isn't something just any brand can do. Mensa has an advantage of scale here. Imagine many brands could have the same suppliers. This gives them the power to negotiate better prices with their suppliers and reduce the cost of goods in the long run. Plus, their optimization for scaling becomes easy because they now have advantage of economies of scale. This benefit of scale also applies to talent. They have a team of experts working on specific functions for 20 brands at once. For example, a performance marketing team that is obsessively working on performance marketing for 20 brands can figure out what strategies work and what doesn't and iterate accordingly. All these things we have talked about so far makes Mensa a strong house of brands that can shake up India's e-commerce space. So these were the main insights that made Mensa a very unique startup story. If you like this video, do let us know in the comments below and we'll make more such videos soon. Also, smash that subscribe button because, well, subscribing is free and you can always unsubscribe later if you want.